Welcome to The Lumber Word, where industry veterans Matt Beamer, Greg Riley, and Ashley Buckholt dissect the world of commodity lumber each week. We bring you up-to-date insights on supply, demand, and market trends, sharing our trading expertise to benefit everyone in the supply chain. Join us for informative and entertaining discussions that guarantee to make you wiser about all things lumber.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of The Lumber Word, episode number 107. I'm excited we have a reoccurring guest. Kip, I'm going to say your last name again, Fotheringham, correct?
Perfect.
Close enough. Kip is especially tied in, dialed into the BC market, so in all kinds of North American markets. In your previous days, you did a lot over in Japan, China, other markets, traded in the BC market, U.S. market, North American market. So we're going to lean on you for some questions. Charles, Greg, Matt, ready to go. I sent over some things to chat about. I was going to. We can talk about the market, but I'm getting the same exact calls from everybody over the last week, especially the last day or two. Are you guys doing anything right now? Why are things slow? What's going on? I've had a couple people telling me this is the slowest 2 weeks they've had in quite a while. I thought that was interesting, and I was going to also kick it off. Tim Hansen, lumber broker at Industrial Lumber Sales, sent this on LinkedIn, said, "Hey, Ash, love your input. What are you guys now thinking about the 25% tariff on Canadian lumber? I was with you suggesting no way we'll do that, but a lot of posts are now stating it's on. What do you think of that now?" So is it on or is it not on is the real question.
Well, I mean, per what Stinson Dean just put on the internet, the pressure valve is being released. From what I read, Lutnick said something. Anybody else see that?
I think he said, yeah. So he said something a bit ago. Basically, I thought I heard if somebody just secures their borders, there'll be no tariff. I think that's what was said, but
so there's a lot of stuff. This is my chance to triple down on that. What I've been saying for the last, as long as we've been doing this, that there will not be a 25% tariff on Canadian lumber. Is now a good time to say that?
Well, what if it's not 25, but what if it's 5 or 10? Or what if it's an escalating scale based on time? Do you still win is the question.
Exactly. You feel me, don't you, Charles?
But he just basically told you his one hand clapping.
Golf clap.
So Greg, I think the better question is, if you want to win your bet, is there or is there not going to be a tariff on Canada and Mexico? That's like what percentage it is. You need to go all in. Yes or no?
No, there's not going to be any tariffs on anything
at all
from Canada or Mexico ever. You know what? It's not going to do it. Not going to do it.
Kip, we had this conversation, you and I, last week. Remember, what did I say about the quota and the tariff together? What did I say?
You said that the duty from the U.S. on Canadian lumber would just go away, and you said there would be absolutely no tariffs whatsoever between Canada, Mexico, and the U.S.
That's not exactly what I meant. So I guess that message sent wasn't message received. What I meant was that we have a tariff right now, right? We have a 15% tax.
We have countervailing duty.
Whatever you want to call it, it is a tax. And you throw 25% on top of that, we're going to now have a 40% tax on imported lumber. And at the same time, the entire purpose of the countervailing duty from the get-go has been achieved. Literally, the whole point of it was to slow down the flow of beetle-killed timber from British Columbia to the United States. At the time, they were the lowest cost producer in North America, and they had an unfair trade advantage, and so the coalition sued and won. Now where are we? Now British Columbia is the highest cost producer in North America. Their production has shrunk by half, and all that capacity has moved down to the south. So by every measure, that whole countervailing duty has succeeded in its goals. And to throw more salt into the wound with an extra 25%, I think is just foolish. I don't think Trump is foolish, and so therefore I agree with Greg. I don't think it's going to happen.
So the reason I kind of sent around that email is if you look at the lumber supply, there's two things that stand out that are important. One, the U.S. South in 5 years has added 500 million board feet in 5 years. So clearly, all the stories you hear about the South pouring on production, and I will take a bet from any of the four of you that 2025 is going to be less than 2024 because we've just shut down 1.5 billion board feet of southern pine production in 2024. And the biggest problem in yellow pine is Cletus and Billy Ray Bobby. You have like a 70% turnover. Sorry, Charles.
He knows those people.
It's fine.
That's his
Last
neighbor.
name's Delatorre. It sounds about as foreign as your accent. It's fine. It's
Hey,
fine.
I was on a podcast yesterday, and the guy's name was Cleet Willem, and I was like, God damn! Like if he didn't play lacrosse at Duke or Columbia, I'm wrong because he just looked like it. But anyways, my point is, yellow pine is actually dropping in production.
I have a question though.
They haven't
I have a
picked
serious
anything
question.
up. Yep.
All right, so the state of South Carolina, right? I know this market like the back of my hand, and I know all the multinationals that operate here. And in Q3, Q4 of 24, we cut like, I think it was 5.5 or 600 million foot of production just out of the state of South Carolina, right?
Mhm.
So on that $1.5 billion or 1.5 billion board foot production that you say we lost, where did the balance come from?
Well, if you look at Canfor, West Fraser,
CapEx, right?
I mean, West Fraser bought 5 mills from Gillum in 2021, I believe.
Gilman,
And
they
if
shut
I'm
down.
not-
They shut down too, but those mills only cut like 150 million foot.
That's not weird for a southern yellow pine mill to cut 150, 200 million feet. That's kind of the average size of them. And so what you're looking at is southern yellow pine has, well, it's right on the sheet in front of you guys, cumulative average growth rate of 3% per year, including the 2 greatest years of pricing in lumber history. So yellow pine is not growing and filling the gap is kind of the point. And if you look at that, you can see it. And part of the reason is equipment. There's only 2 people that make the equipment, right? It's BID and USNR. So like you can't just like start a mill up. And the other problem is I mentioned before, you can't get the people. And if you are running an industrial production, I don't care what it is, and you have 70% turnover of staff, think of the safety protocols. By the time the person is up on their safety protocols, have quit. So yellow pine has turned out to be not a very good bet. And then if you look at the rest of it and looking at 2021 and 2022, by far the greatest pricing we've ever seen. What happened to production? Did it go up? We're in an inelastic business. So this is always the problem, right? When the market falls, why don't the mills just all shut down? When the market goes up, why don't they just all make more? The reason is it doesn't work.
It makes sense, right? So we always in our careers have said mills, we can never ceases to amaze us when the price of lumber goes up, how much more production they come up with and then kill the price.
On the
right?
way down.
So maybe there's a little bit of intelligence in here is like, as these mills were bought by other outsiders, they're like, hey, we're going to make hay while the sun shines, but we're not going to keep opening up mills and producing a hell of a lot more.
In the fast-paced world of North American softwood lumber, staying ahead is everything. At Fast Markets, we deliver cutting-edge analysis to keep you informed and prepared for the future. Introducing Fast Markets Lumber Commentary, your gateway to understanding market shifts and price developments. Our short-term outlook offers a comprehensive monthly overview packed with the latest trends and insightful analysis. From construction demand to housing supply side dynamics, we cover all the key indicators that matter to your business. Gain access to our renowned softwood lumber prices, including the industry standard Random Lengths framing lumber composite price. Dive deep into essential market sectors like housing starts, repair and remodeling, and more with our expert analysis. But that's not all. Fast Markets Lumber Commentary gives you the tools to anticipate market changes with detailed insights into demand and supply drivers across the US, Canada, and even offshore trade, and what this ultimately means for the pricing outlook for softwood lumber. Plus, you get direct access to the analysts behind these invaluable forecasts. Ready to make informed strategic decisions? Visit fastmarkets.com/lumber-sample and get your sample of the outlook today. That's fastmarkets.com/lumber-sample to get a sample and find out more.
This is the most amazing thing to me is like, I mean, Kip, and this, I appreciate you sending this along. This is like, it's great. It's great info. And I agree with you. I think as we sit here today, production is just going to be lower this year than it was last year, unless, we have a substantive price run, which, gets some stuff in the second half of the year to come back. But, it's like, it's amazing with all the cut in, we're down and look at where prices are. I mean, and there's a 15% tariff on Canadian lumber, and look at where the prices are. That's the thing that's most surprising to me.
Well, there's two things. One, you're not talking about a tariff. You're talking about a duty, and they have nothing to do with each other. And the reason why is because in the past, the duty is held by the Department of Commerce, and there will be a softwood lumber deal in the next 18 months, and the Canadians will get some portion of that back. Whether it's 25, 50, 75, that's beyond what I know. A tariff is when you go to Mexico and pick up a case of Corona and you bring it back across the border and you pay a duty at the border, you're never getting that back. So there's a huge difference between the two of them. If there's on Saturday, if there's a tariff on Canada and Mexico, that is not up for debate. You don't go to court and go to the WTO and get that back. It's gone. So there is a huge difference. And as I know what you guys say, there's no way there's 25% coming on. Well, that is not true, because Canfor is paying 15% today to go to the United States. That number is going to 40% in June, July, or August. So there's your 25% right there. And that is guaranteed. It's already baked in the cake. So they are running their operations in Canada knowing there's a 40% duty coming.
Is there going to be
summer.
an effort to renegotiate that this summer in advance of that?
Not a
that
chance.
Seems awful steep.
Well, that's Canfor. Everyone else is going, like Hampton. You guys are all going to 30%. So you're going from 15 to 30.
Still a lot of money.
Absolutely.
That's a hell of a lot of money.
There's no chance it's being renegotiated. We don't have a government. So,
well, I mean, you're going to have one by June, right?
Yeah, late May we'll have an election. It's all going to get wrapped into the USMCA thing. There's no chance we're going to have a new government, and in 2 weeks the softwood lumber deal is. They won't even know where their desk is.
I have a couple questions, because the information, like Greg said, I mean, the information that you put in front of us obviously makes sense, and Ash corroborated it. I mean, you look at 21 and 22, looks like U.S. South was up 10%, right? U.S. West stayed the same. My question is back to my original point. So if you look at what just the state of South Carolina and the majors took off here, right, 500 to 600 million foot, and then West Fraser shut down a couple of the Gilman mills, which collectively probably 300 million foot. So let's call it 900 million foot. We'll round up to $1 billion, right? So that's $1 billion board foot off of production. Same page. But in the same stretch of time, we've added CapEx improvements that have taken those 150 million foot mills to 250 to 300 in multiple locations by multiple international operators. Then you've taken people that are not historically in Southern Yellow Pine business and made investments and obviously outfitted those to maximize return, 250 to 300 million foot. I guess my question would be, with the supposed, what perceives to be a ramp up in production based on the new entrants to the market, right? What does that do to the legacy operators from a long-term perspective, in your opinion? You know, the smaller independents that decided not to sell to the majors. What kind of impact is that going to have? Because from the information I'm getting on this call, right, the smaller inefficient guys that are our northern neighbors are going to be done. I mean, there's no way some of these guys that are not operating with the efficiencies that they need can afford 30 to 40%. I mean, you can't. There's no way, right? So, what are the independents in the South going to do the same thing and react the same way? Because markets haven't corrected, even though we took out 1.5 billion foot. I mean, they haven't. I mean, log costs are $200, $230 a thousand in the South. I mean, nobody's making any money. So what happens long term?
So, I mean, you've had 1.5 billion feet come out, which may not all being like felt today, but it's the same thing on the Canadian side. You got, I mean, most of those smaller, like you're talking about, those smaller family-owned businesses, they don't have any debt. Can they hang on? Do they want to hang on? And I mean, there's two issues on the pine production. Three issues. One, it's $40 a ton for the logs to come into your mill. Just think about that for a second. $40 a ton. There's nothing that can be delivered to your house. Dirt, garbage, everything costs more than $40. So the log cost, my point is, the log cost is so cheap. That's why all the Canadians dove in. The two biggest problems are getting equipment put in, because there's only two companies and each mill has their own, you know, which one they like to go with. But the biggest one is people. You have like 70, 60, 50% turnover. Your sawmill, whatever you think it could produce optimally, it will never produce that. It's impossible to run any kind of business with that kind of turnover. And is that going to change? I mean, the unemployment rate in the US is pretty low. Let's be honest, it's a bad job. It's a bad job working in a pine mill.
Because we were talking the other day, you know, that's on the, you know, like the supply side. I know, Ash, you were talking about, you know, some ag guys that, you know, said that processing plants, you know, parking lots were not full because of the current immigration changes that we're experiencing. And I just, you know, I kind of paused. I saw something where, you know, they estimated that it's in across the southern U.S. It's, you know, it's somewhere around maybe like as much as, you know, 25 to 35% of construction workers could be not documented. And, you know, whether, you know, I'm just wondering as we go fast forward over the next 3 to 6 months, you know, are we going to be hearing that, you know, part of the problem with, you know, things while building is slower is because there's a lack of workers? Is that something that?
Well, we can change that, right? I mean, one of the ways that you can change that is you can panelize all of your construction projects. Up in the Northeast, that's a big deal because their building seasons are so much shorter and they have some unionized labor. Right. So panelizing that project is going to be the change that has to happen.
That would take a long time because
but it wouldn't.
South of the Mason-Dixon line.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't though. I mean, it wouldn't. A lot of these truss guys, it takes them nothing to put together a wall.
No, I understand. But back to Kip's thing, it would take, I think that the truss people have the same exact thing, buying equipment to put in a new truss lines too. There's only a handful of people that make that equipment, and it takes a while.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't. You can do it. You can do it pretty archaically, right? I mean,
sure.
If you've got a guy that's want to lay out a piece of plate horizontally and then hold it up, put it on the ground, nail it together. All you got to do is have a jig. I can build a wall with some raw metal and something that flips. Like it's very simple. You can go all the way to lasers and cameras and all the rest of that stuff if you want to.
Getting back to the, to the potential tariff, and, I know based on my, all my conversations with my suppliers, 90% of them are not selling any lumber and absorbing any potential tariff. There's a couple guys, some strong supporters and listeners of the show are selling lumber, saying that they'll absorb any tariff should it happen. I will say Sitka Forest Products is one of those companies that is selling and will absorb any tariffs if there are them. But that having been said, what happens to the market if Saturday comes and goes and we kick the can down there? Yeah, we're going to revisit things because there's no government, and we're going to talk about stuff in another 30 days. What happens to the market, Matt?
It's going to go down.
How much?
I don't know, but I mean, we were just at 530, 540 on 2 before, and we've been as low as 480 recently. I'm not saying we're going to go retest the 480 level, but 530 wouldn't surprise me.
And Matt, you've been a little kudos. You've been saying this for like 3 weeks.
I don't know. I mean, I've actually not just been saying it. I've been selling the board against it. So, there you go. Full disclosure. I'm not just talking. I'm actually betting with my own money. And so I may be wrong, but I have the inventory to back my action. Another thing that's bothersome, since mid-November, shortly after Trump got elected, all of my Canadian friends, and a few in particular, have been extremely aggressive trying to get me to buy lumber, using the Trump tariffs as a tactic. And I've just, for the whole time, I've watched Trump for 8 years now. The guy has a certain style. He says outlandish things, then he does something behind the scenes, they negotiate something. And today I saw an article just a second ago, right before I stepped into this thing. Trump said to Mexico, you guys can go look it up after the show, that if you guys control your border and help with the immigration problem and the fentanyl problem, then there won't be any tariffs. He just came out publicly said that. This is just what Trump does. So knowing that, I'm like, I've got guys telling me, oh, it's for sure it's going to happen on January 20th. This is like November 20th when they're telling me this. I had multiple calls and emails from really aggressive Canadian companies trying to sell me lumber using that strategy as to why I should load up on stuff that I normally buy. And I'm just like, I'm not going to do it. First of all, it's the middle of the winter. Second of all, I don't think Trump's going to do what you think he's going to do. And so I'm just not going to react. Sorry. And besides that, why wouldn't you just wait and let it happen? Okay. I got inventory on the ground. If it happens, I'm going to make an extra 20, 25%. I'll just take the money. Thank you. Appreciate it. It'd be a gift. So why react, right? Why not just let it happen and then react? I don't know, maybe I'm just an old man and I'm grumpy, but that's how I feel about it.
You're all. Yeah, Charles will tell you you're all of those things. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
I just find it irritating that people get so enamored.
Well, it's emotional, man. Everything in this industry is emotional. Nobody thinks logically.
Just stop.
My thoughts.
I agree. I agree.
I just sold some futures based on what you just said, because I said, I'm going to go in with Matt. I'm in.
So just a question here. So you asked what happens if nothing happens. Well, right now, from what I'm seeing from the Canadian side, mills are offering us cars as they come up ready to load and go across, right? I'm not getting offered in the East a lot of stuff from the few mills I talk to for things 2-3 weeks out. I mean, Greg, Matt, are you seeing any of that? But what I am here,
I'm just buying lumber like I normally do. I know the mills in Canada aren't real interested in selling me lumber that's 3-4 weeks out, but they will sell me prompt wood for sure.
But they are shipping it across the border. Some are going into reload facilities. I mean, that's probably not a lot, but I've heard the comment from a few people, we're upping our contracts. And what that leads me to believe is it's contracts are always an interesting thing. They're upping their VMIs, right? So they're calling up customers that have 70 locations, 3 locations, 6 locations. They're like, hey, I know we normally ship you, 60 days, 30 days inventory. Do you got room for another 30 days? And we'll just ship it in there and whatever. And it's rolling across the border. So if there is no quota or tariff, excuse me, that wood's here.
There's also lumber and public reloads that some mills have jammed across the border.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's here.
Well, I mean, one of the most interesting things, I mean, as you started off with a preface saying, people, we get these emails and we get these calls going, hey, are you guys busy? Yeah, I'm busy. I'm busy. I'm busy doing busy work. I will say that we've been seeing, with the winter weather over the last few weeks, it has affected our transportation lanes, and I'm trying to get a handle on whether it's a me thing or it's more widespread than that. But we're backed up on trucking right now, and our trucking rates are up out of the Northeast, which is a main place that we ship from. Our mills are backed up. They're 3 weeks out on shipping because they're having issues with trucking. And I'm not sure if that's just competition because, certain people want to move more aggressively than we do.
Or is it other industries wanting to move stuff across the border, not just lumber, right?
Yeah, I mean, right.
So, Kip, I had one question on this chart because it's fascinating. Before you sent this over the other day, my mind, if you would have just asked me on a phone call, what do you think the breakdown of the different Pacific Northwest, Canada, in the South were, I would have been way off on this, right? So I look at Canada, it's still 20 billion board feet coming to the U.S. It's 21 billion South, 13 plus billion West. So the fact that people we need Canadian lumber to build houses, right?
No, we don't.
So how do we need Canadian lumber to build houses? No. I mean, it's a huge chunk, and this is what think about what it affects too is home centers, everybody that's planning contracts, everybody that's planning kind of things going forward. Like there's a good mix of everything here, of all the different species. So how are the American people how going to realize in this whole negotiation that do we have enough lumber if housing starts went up 20%? Right now, based on what we're doing?
What percentage of our lumber?
Start off is there's no chance that housing starts can go up 20% based on all the backdrop housing. The best case scenario on a demand side is that housing starts in 2025 are flat to marginally higher. That's the best case scenario right now, given where interest rates are, given where affordability is, all of those factors. So, you have to baseline, hey, what's your demand look like? And your demand looks flat.
Great. Right? That's an about face from last week. Well, all these builders at 3.9. And I mean,
I'm saying that's what they need to do to keep stuff moving, right?
Oh yeah.
They have to do that. So, the big national builders, they're going to keep their product moving because they're buying down mortgages and they're doing whatever they. So I did have one shout out for our good friend Jeff Berwick, who Charles. I'm not sure that you're familiar with Jeff, but I know the rest of us are. And Jeff's been a good friend for a long time. Gave me some really interesting. Jeff always has some really good insights and some info. But he gave me this one today, which I was like, huh? The average age of a home buyer in 2024, 49 years old. Now, Charles, you may think that's old, but Matt and I think that's really young.
Yeah, Come on, Ashton's the same age I am.
Yeah, but that's a staggering. Statistic.
He's wearing a hat backwards. I can do that. Come on.
So that's because you guys didn't like who I was advertising.
He's got hair you can see in the middle.
I used to have hair, and I cut it all off.
The average age of a home buyer was 31.
Yeah, I have a question.
That is a staggering statistic, though.
Time out, Charles. I have a question for Ashley and Kip. We have about 30 to 40% of the lumber consumed in North America. That includes panels, other engineered type wood comes from Canada, correct?
No. You're talking OSB and everything. That's probably
OSB and lumber. 30 to 40% of all the lumber consumed. What do you think, Kip?
No, now did you say North America or are you talking the US?
In the United States. In the United States, of all what are we consuming? Like 55 billion board feet of material a year, something like that.
A little higher than that, but I mean,
57.3
close
last
enough.
year.
So let's say about a third of all the building materials that we're consuming in this country are coming from north of the border. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
No, it's about 25%.
Okay,
You're correct. It was a third, but duties obviously play a factor into that, and they're going to play a huge factor this summer when it's 30%. Canada is about a third of the SPF, right? So you can't really jam more into Canada. Like,
the point I'm trying to get
works.
to is that if we're going to tack on a 25% tariff on 25 to 33% of the product that we need to build homes, and Trump is on record before he got elected of talking about increasing housing supply and bringing the cost of housing down and helping young people achieve the American dream. Those two things don't really work together, do they?
So Matt, it's a rounding error. That's not going to make a substantive difference in the price of homes. I mean, I'm sorry.
I understand that, but I mean, those two things.
Package is a small number of
those two things. What would be the price of 2x4 spruce if we're not getting any of our lumber from Canada anymore? I mean, we'd make 2021 look great.
Like you're not going to get any of your lumber from Canada. That's not what's going to happen.
I'm just saying. I just think that it's foolish talk.
Well, let's let Kip. What do you think, Kip? What do you think of that question?
Well, being a Canadian, when you're talking about the person you're talking about, this is the same guy that put a 25 moving to 50% tariff on Colombia on Saturday morning and took it off Saturday afternoon. So if you're going to base your thought process on what comes out of that mouth, you might want to rejig your business plan.
But remember, he took it off.
Who's getting a message from the Secret Service
in 6 hours?
It's not me.
In 6 hours, he took it off.
He had to finish his round of golf. He was in the golf cart. He was typing the thing to his.
So hey, they
went from saying, "Hey, we're not going to take the planes of people you're sending here," to going like, "Hey, we'll send out one of our planes to get them too."
And is there enough water on those planes?
Yeah.
So, but here's my question. Let's get this out. Gregg, Kip, I think we need a side bet.
I'm all about.
Absolutely.
I love a good side bet.
Like let's make this sporty.
All right.
What are you guys thinking here? Like, I think we're taking
Gregg says zero. Absolute zero. So that's his number.
I'm zero.
Okay.
Zero.
Time frame.
But hold on. Is there a time frame that it has to be enforced? Or are you just saying not at all ever?
Y'all want to say 30 days?
30 days. Yeah, let's use
Is that fair?
March 1st. March 1st.
60. Okay.
It's very difficult to put tariffs on when the people that put them on aren't even confirmed in Congress. It's very difficult.
Good point.
April 1st. What's your number, Kip?
25.
Whoa. Hey,
I'll take that action.
Well, Gregg says zero. So, like, what do? I go 1%? Well, then I've got everything. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say 25%.
I love it. This is fun, actually.
Okay, 25%. And we can't all pile on here because I don't know. So, like, let's make this the friendly one. We were thinking, it can't be just a shitty dinner. It's got to be a good dinner, right, Kev?
Well, speaking of good dinner,
you can't go minus.
You can't go minus.
It's not going to be minus.
Right.
So
it's either 0 or 25.
He's at 0. So everything's on the table when you go 0.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of impressed with Gregg's conviction when he went 0.
Well, these guys both.
Hey, Kip, I don't know about you, but I like to win. I would have went with 1%.
These guys are both playing from the. They're both playing from the tips right now.
I mean, I'm just saying.
What if he says
this is one of those bets where I win?
Yeah,
because,
exactly.
I mean, from a selfish standpoint, Matt, to your point, hey, put a 25% on, that'd be great for our position.
Right.
Yeah, but there's a certain competitive thing about being right.
Yeah, there's going to be no doubt.
Especially if your name is Greg Riley.
Do you know who your audience is?
Let's throw all that bullshit aside for a second.
Lumber.
Okay, so Kip is taking the
dinner in Chicago, dinner in Vancouver. Whatever beverage, you go top shelf all the way.
Ashley, you want to talk about something else?
I'll go.
Yeah, let's throw it out.
I think we got it.
That's perfect. I love it. So basically what we're saying is we got to sit here for the next X amount of time to figure out what this market's going to do.
Well, I think there's a lot of unknown. I'm going to tell you what, and I'll repeat what I said last week. Southern Yellow Pine Mills are holding the line a hell of a lot better than we thought they were going to. And they have done a great job creating a little bit of a supply crunch.
Okay.
On various products throughout the great American South, whether it's in Texas or North Carolina. Obviously some prices aren't at points to where they want them to be, but there's other things that make sense for them to produce in kind of vast number, right? So it's real intriguing to me, this whole conversation, just for the very simple fact, if you looked at 556 Chicago and you added 25%, you're at 750, right? So you're talking roughly $194 that goes to the government per car that lands in Chicago. Well, it's going to take a really, really long time for Southern Yellow Pine to get to that point. And especially if we continue to optimize. So it'll be interesting.
European lumber. Is anybody see anything on European lumber? I mean,
y'all are the gurus. Why don't you educate us?
Business is normal, right?
You're not going to see substantively more. We found that out, when we were in Vancouver last year. I think the marginal and the distribution may be, we're seeing, hey, there's probably going to be a little more 2x6, with the prices of 2x6s, a little bit less 2x4. But, I think the run rate is going to be, it's going to be what it is. And it's not going to be, if prices move up substantially, then, it could be marginally more, but it's not going to be substantially more. I'm just still back at this whole, my whole head scratcher is, given the backdrop of everything that we're at, how low lumber prices are. I'm just still, I'm still, that's the conundrum for me right now.
So the question you asked the other day, we were talking last night, Matt and Charles, maybe you could answer this. If you left from Mars 60 days ago, knew everything you knew then, came back, you had no inventory, you landed today, and you landed back on the earth today with no lumber position on, would you be buying here, or what would you be doing? Would you be building a position? Would you not be building a position? You know everything that everybody else knows today. What's your thought on that?
I just transact business normal. That's what I'm doing. You operate based off of market indicators. And we can have all the side bets we want about tariffs, and we can talk about all of what could be substantiated in the downfall and how it could be critical to one country but not another, and the devastating effects of it potential. But I don't think there's a way to really be convicted one way or the other.
Well, we all lean to the short side or the long side during different trading sides. So which side would you be leaning toward?
I'd be long, short. I'd be long 2x4 in general because it's cheapest thing out there, right? And relative to 2x6, it's still cheaper, significantly cheaper. If anything, I'd be short, the back months and futures, and I'd be short 2x6. If you can get sort of just good random 2x6 sold ahead, I think that'd be not a bad thing to have. But I wouldn't be building an inventory right now unless I had a real reason. And look, if I could buy some cheap 2x4 with good tallies, or some cheap 2x4 92s and 104s that I could sort of put in the back shed and sit on for 60, 90 days. I probably do that kind of stuff, but I do that kind of stuff anyways, right? So it's like, I guess I wouldn't really do anything different than what I normally do. Does that make sense?
It does. I don't think I'd be on the long side of it, because if there is a tariff goes in, Greg, what do you, you can always jump on it and pay. I mean, you're all in the same boat. You won't have a problem buying lumber. You just may pay more for it, right? If it doesn't go in, I certainly wouldn't want to be long, right? Or would I? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it sure seems like, the board had trickled down until yesterday, where it had a little bit of a pop, and it was down kind of right on the cash market, and maybe it's got a slight premium right now. I mean, I think May's $600, so I mean that's a little bit, but the cash market sure doesn't feel like anybody, and we've polled some people in the market, and the end users, the big end users, they're not buying any more lumber because they think there may be a tariff. If anything, what's happened is because of the weather in January. I mean, you kind of had as much winter as you ever get across south of the Mason-Dixon line. That slowed down their consumption, and so their days of inventory actually probably has gone up in January without buying that much, which is part of what's contributed to the slower feel.
Greg, what do you like and what don't you like to own right now?
Well, I mean, as I've been telling most people, is I'm just generally unhappy with everything right here. We've got to, we probably have a little more inventory than I'd like, but that's partially because we're backed up on shipping, and we're probably still 80, 100 trucks behind on shipping, and so it's a challenge. I mean, we got a lot of customers looking for wood next week, and we're quoting 3 weeks or sooner on most items. I mean, it's a little bit better, out of the southern ports. I mean, we just unloaded a vessel in Port Arthur, and we've got that, and that's selling well, and we got one that's going to be cleared in Cape Canaveral. So, but yeah, lumber is cheap irrespective of duties or potential tariffs, and I'm just keep wondering is where's the pipeline, and if our customers inventories a little lean for a ramp up seasonal business. I remember a guy telling me once, we use X number. We don't use a lot of sticks in January, but we use 50% more sticks in February, and we use twice as many sticks in March. And April's the busiest month of the year for us, right? So
let's wrap it up. So what I heard today is Kip and Greg have got a great side bet going on right now. Charles, you will not take over the world in Southern Yellow Pine, but you'll still be in it partially.
I didn't get a chance to defend that. I have it on my script that you sent out, but
yeah.
I never got a chance to address that.
Yeah, you can try.
I got a dinosaur in my pocket, and my son gave me before I left the house this morning, and everything.
Yeah,
I had props, Ash. What are we doing? No, it's fine. No,
us old guys. So we still have a couple years left to trade in.
Can I say something, Ash?
Sure.
I feel bad for the Canadian industry, and it's not just because Hampton owns Canadian sawmills. I feel like, we need them, right? We forget that. Charles likes to joke, makes a smart comment.
Matt, I agree.
Look, I love Canadians. I love the nation of Canada, and I'm on their side on this one here. This 40% bullshit and this adding 25% on top of it bullshit. It just kind of pisses me off, knowing what they've been through in the last, 15 years with the beetle kill problems, and now that their own government is against them, right? And I live in a state where the government doesn't support the timber industry. So I have strong feelings about this, right? And now it's happening to our brothers in British Columbia. That, quite frankly, pisses me off, right? Like, we've lost common sense. We just think we're going to turn forests into museums and just nobody can go in there anymore. Duh. Terrible policy. You want to see a great example of that terrible policy? Just look at the LA wildfires. All right. When you let people take over your environmental policy, take over your business, policy and your national strategy as how you're going to use and extract your natural resources and provide income and taxes for your communities and your citizens, when you choose a fish, a smelt, or a tree, or a caribou over your citizens' well-being, you've kind of lost the plot here. And I just have to put that out there. I'm fully on their side on this one, man. I hope that calmer heads prevail and that we can all just work it out and move on. We have business to transact.
It feels like
Matt, to kind of key on that, right? Because I do make a lot of smart ass comments, but that's mainly directed at y'all, right? I mean,
the Northerners, the Yankees.
I got to stand up for myself, man. Sometimes I get picked on, right? It's fun.
You can handle it, Ross. You can handle it.
I mean, yeah. But no, I agree with you. I mean, industrially, from just a commerce perspective, it could be devastating. I agree.
Yeah, and this feels like that kind of thing when a person is kind of down a little bit. You don't want to put your boot on their neck, right? And that's what it kind of feels like when everybody smells blood in the water. They're like all these factions are coming in to get their pound of flesh. So I hope it works out where that does not happen.
Hopefully next week we have a little more. We have a little more clarity. Kip, it was always great to see you, buddy. Great to have you on, and we'll look forward to doing it again and seeing you in person.
Hey, Kip, you kind of look like a younger.
Great to see you guys.
By the way.
I've always
Other than the hands and the skating
I've always
ability,
called him the great one.
No, it's awesome, Kip. I'm so glad you came on,
yes.
and got us straightened out a few things and threw some data at us. So let's do this again.
Yes, sir, gentlemen. Y'all be good.
All right, guys.
Absolutely.
Guys.
Yep.
All right.
See you.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of The Lumber Word. The Lumber Word podcast is dedicated to engaging conversations about the lumber industry, including trading ideas, market trends, and evaluations of overvalued and undervalued assets. We wish to emphasize that the discussions and opinions expressed in this podcast are purely for informational and entertainment purposes. They should not be considered as financial or investment advice. We encourage our listeners to make their own financial decisions, taking into account their unique circumstances and financial goals, and to seek professional financial advice if necessary.